Nobody's listening, right? Hi, Andy.
Hello.
Is anybody listening?
Is anybody yeah, they're listening. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I'm still listening. I'm so happy Elizabeth and Andy are back. My husband and I are big fans. They gave excellent advice to us on Totally Married, and we wore our Totally Married shirts at our wedding reception.
No.
Still get questions about my Andy Says Bounce shirt, though.
Oh, my gosh.
That's from Xanadu 311. Is
That's
it bad
amazing.
that I feel like I haven't been very good about shouting out who is leaving these?
Yeah,
Do you think that's relevant or not relevant?
I think it's a good move to do, but I wouldn't lose sleep over the past.
Can I do one from Milk Steak 420 real quick?
Yeah.
Listening. I deleted a decade-old review to rewrite this one. Well, I don't know if you need to delete the old one. Maybe you can only have one review.
Maybe.
Not only am I listening, but I've been listening since the Earwolf Challenge. My God, much love. Glad you're back.
Oh.
Thanks for sticking around. Holy.
I have a few announcements to make.
Oh, cool.
So last week, our episode, when it was first uploaded, for some reason, there was no audio after like 40 seconds. And I think for a lot of people who are subscribers, it automatically like saves whatever file is there.
Okay.
And even though we re-uploaded a corrected file that later that day, I think the people who are subscribers where it had already saved the file, that's just the file that they access. So,
oh, interesting. It doesn't update the file.
So if you were unable to listen to the full episode last week, I would say go back and just re-download the file and you should be able to listen to it now without issue. Sorry for that blip.
It's the only way you'll get the code for our OnlyFans is if you listen to that episode. We said it once. We're not saying it again.
Hilarious. Secondly, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who came out to my show, which would have been last night.
Hey!
I hope it was fun. We're recording this before the show. And then also I wanted to say that, obviously last week was really, really hard. I think anyone who's been a fan of ours for a while knows my stance on gun regulation. And so basically this week is actually more important than last week in terms of activism. The gun supporters, which are so few actually amongst us, are just so loud. And typically after a mass shooting like this, like gun stock rose, which is what happens. The gun manufacturers get richer. More people buy guns because they're getting fed, that we're taking away their guns. And they actually continuously are louder after a shooting like this and for longer. And so sadly, gun laws typically become more relaxed after shootings.
Oh, wow.
And the reason is that us activists and or just people who feel outrage or despair or whatever, like go through the wave of emotions in the first week in our online posting and calling senators. And then the next week it goes away. And that's what the gun, fetishizers rely on. So this week is actually more important. Please keep calling your senators, particularly if you are in a red state. Put this number in your phone, 202-224-3121. Tell your senator you want universal background checks on all gun sales, close the gun show loophole. Tell them you want to confirm Steve Dettelbach as the ATF director. Ask if your rep sponsors Ethan's Law. And tell them that you support the assault weapon ban. Because something's got to change. And I do feel like there's more, like I'm seeing more rationality on the side of the right. I feel like a lot of Republicans are waking up to the fact that their representatives are not voting in line with what they want by and large. And I think a big reason for that is because, when Columbine happened, the internet we weren't able to share like hard statistics the way we can now. And you just can't. I mean, some people can ignore facts, but most of us can't. And so I think the issue is like, you and I were talking about this. The issue is that on the right, Republicans want gun control, common sense gun laws, right? They're not fucking idiots. It's now the number one killer of children. Most Republicans don't want this to keep happening, but it's not such a big factor for them that it would change their vote.
Right.
So I'm hoping that that's changing. I'm hoping that they start to become outraged that their representatives who are getting millions and millions of dollars from the gun lobby, and they know that if they vote even against what their constituents want, they're not going to lose the vote. Republicans need to start to feel outraged that they are getting lied to and they're not voting in line with them because they're getting money. It's like, It's so fucked up. And I hope that more gun owners on both sides are speaking out. I've seen online, I feel like I'm starting to see more of a wave of that versus just like the super liberal anti-gun bubble being vocal for a week and then dropping off. Now it feels like we're kind of coming together, which I hope continues to happen.
Yeah, I read something interesting that like the only real way that we'll see real change is if it becomes much more of a public health problem than like a politicized thing. Similar to what happened with masks in this country, it wasn't a public health thing. It became politicized and about freedom, which is like so sad, where in other countries it was like, nope, wearing a mask is just public health and safety. Like,
I know. And it's just,
weird.
it's
We're
really,
a weird bunch.
We are a weird bunch, but I think that we have like extremists who are very vocal and loud. And then also we have Tucker Carlson, who is this like megaphone to so many people. And he's just spewing fucking bullshit and getting, instilling fear and hatred. And I'm like, if we can't come together on this, and also like, I feel I'm seeing the senator, Ted Cruz twisting himself into a pretzel now, trying to find the thing. I mean, he still went to the NRA convention the next day and said, as we know, the thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. How can you say that 2 days after there were 19 trained and armed police officers waiting while children are calling, screaming for help? I mean, I can't even get into it.
Yeah. It's crazy. You want to know what something very eye-opening to me and like a big bummer, but also it was just so interesting. And I think it was something that you liked on Twitter. I think that's how it popped in my feed. But it was like a thread that went viral about someone that grew up evangelical and was kind of explaining that the evangelical church, while the heads of those churches, there's so much corruption there, and those churches are funneling so much money to gun lobbyists and all, you name whatever thing they're supporting. So let's just say there's all sorts of corruption there and their intentions aren't great, but that their followers
oh yeah,
like truly believe that like someone being gay is much bigger problem because that person is going to hell than a kid getting shot because that kid getting shot is going to heaven.
Yeah.
And like had never even crossed my mind. I've made the leap about abortion where if you put yourself in the shoes of someone that's on the pro-life side of a protest, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, they legit like
they think this is murdering the most innocent of innocents.
Correct. You can like kind of wrap your head around that for
Yeah.
a minute, and like it's easy to forget that. But like this particular example, I thought was so fascinating, and it was like, oh shit! Like those people really, really believe that.
This is
as fucked up as it completely is.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes I don't. That would have never crossed my mind.
And in their minds also, like, this is a good thing. Like you said, like when a child dies, it's tragic, but also it's the child's going home to Jesus. Yeah. But the gay person who lives next door to them, like them getting that gay person to stop being gay, I'm putting in quotes,
Sure.
means they've saved someone from hell. Like that is like their earthly duty and goal. So I follow someone on Instagram and I really admire and respect her. And she's incredibly Christian. And she posted something that was just like, you know, in despair, like, this is so awful after the shooting. And but then, and she said like, and I'm just finding myself asking, why, God, why? And then also like, then it was like, I don't pretend to know what the answer is, but I'm wondering if we can all put everything aside and come together, you know, and heal, blah, blah, blah. And it's a nice sentiment. Mm-hmm. I wrote like 3 different comments and then deleted them. Because I think the religious idea, I mean, it was like when Trump was president, and my friend whose parents are like, you know, I guess they're evangelical. They're Baptist. We're like, God works in mysterious ways. It's like, no, this was a choice. Like there was this other option. Mm-hmm. And they act like, I can't start to wonder, you know, and with, in this case, I'm like, don't pretend that there's not another option. Like the answer, if you believe in God, it feels like God is screaming the answer to us and is like, what the fuck are you people doing? Yeah. And I'm like, don't pretend like there's no answer and you're just like baffled by what God's doing here. And I think that's when religion becomes really, really dangerous, is when your idea that this is all part of God's plan, conveniently, I feel like that happens when, you know, bad things happen, like, and you then are writing the narrative that, well, this is part of God's plan, so I'm okay with it. And it takes responsibility away from people, from having to be good people and doing the right thing and making choices and doing hard things like, you know, making the phone calls to your senators every day is hard. And I actually don't do it. And, you know, I made a bunch of calls the day after, and like, I need to be consistent about it. And, I don't know. I get frustrated with this idea of like, we just don't know what he's doing up there, but I mean, it's interesting you say that. That is the allure of these religions too, because they do offer that explanation and comfort when horrible things happen. Mm-hmm. And you know, that's why a lot of people that have very tragic things look to religion, and find religion. There's also many cases of when someone has tragic stuff happen, they lose religion because they're like, no, that's not the answer. How could this happen to me? But yeah, it's like, it works kind of both ways there. But in this case, I'm just like, you know, I think that hopefully, I mean, obviously there is a small group of people, like the QAnon people or the people who are just so deep in it and can't, you know, whatever. But I'm hopeful that like when people see that Ted Cruz is saying what we need is one door, and it's like, rational people know that, well, first of all, again, you're using the one door when the cops were standing outside of one door for a fucking hour. Yeah. But also like understand that having one door for a school building is not safe for fire, like for so many other reasons. It's just not feasible. Like
Yeah.
for time, for child safety, and so many other ways. I'm hoping that people are starting to see what fucking evil frauds. They're the 50 Republican senators. Now, there are a few that say that maybe they're open to some sort of reform. But I'll believe it when I see it.
You know what? I pulled up, and let's get off guns after this.
Yeah.
Unless we
Sorry,
want
I didn't even mean to do
it's
this,
totally
but
fine.
you know.
I mean, it's so relevant. I saved this because I was like, why? This makes so much sense. Do you know Israel's policy on having guns?
No.
This is like, I'm like, why can't we just do this? Okay. The requirements for obtaining a license for a gun, you have to be 27 years old if you haven't served in the military.
Right.
Okay,
Which
one.
everyone in Israel
Most
does.
people, a lot of people serve in the military, but if you haven't, you have to be 27. If you were in the military, you know, learn
good
how
to
to
go.
properly use a gun. You have to pass a gun safety test.
Mm-hmm.
You have to obtain a letter from a doctor that says you are of sound mind and body.
Wow.
So all those things, and then there's another, and then you have a limit of purchasing 50 bullets. And this is to purchase a single handgun.
So genius.
It just all makes so much sense. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, that seems very reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We just got it all. We got it backwards.
Yeah, and even like, you know, the Second Amendment people, which is like, amendments are amendable.
Sure.
And also, if you look at the verbiage of the Second Amendment, I'm like, I could just as easily argue that you're infringing on my right to a well-regulated militia by not allowing regulations. And by the way, this is the last little thing I'll say on my soapbox is that, I just want to say, for some reason, like, guns and republicanism has become so intertwined. Like, people think that to be a Republican, I have to be obsessed with guns and not like want no restrictions whatsoever. But I think people have been misled to believe that it should be like up to the states or it should be an individual right or whatever it is. The GOP, the gun lobby is, you know, funnels all this money into the GOP and wants the GOP to make the guns manufacturers more money. That's just what it all comes down to money.
Yeah.
And in the way they do that is these mass shootings happening. Mm. They literally, like, Ted Cruz is delivering on his promise that he made to the gun lobby when he accepted the millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And they are passing laws. It's not that they're being passive and being like, we just want access to guns. In Florida, this was a couple years ago, they were trying to pass the law and nearly succeeded, I think, that it would become illegal for doctors to talk about guns with parents, pediatricians, when it's the number one cause of death for children. It would be illegal for a doctor to say, are there guns in your home? Are they locked up?
Yeah.
It would be, so they're passing laws that basically ensure gun violence happens because gun violence equals more gun purchases. And it, like, they're passing, like, do you want a senile, like a person who is suffering from Alzheimer's to have access to like an AK-40, whatever they are, walking around? Like, what the fuck are these people doing?
It's wild.
And they don't care. I saw so much, this is the last thing I'll say, but, you know, I hate to fuel these horrible feelings that we're all starting to kind of, I think, like last week, if our listeners were like me, like sitting in it, and now I'm starting to feel like, oh, I can enjoy my day again. Mm-hmm. But it's important to remain outraged, and so I'll leave you with this. Like, someone on Twitter said, a dad wore, this was 2 days after the devastating shooting, a dad wore a t-shirt with an AR, whatever that was. Is it an AR-47? AR-15
Yeah.
to his son's kindergarten graduation. Can you imagine going to a kindergarten graduation and one of the dads there 2 days after a school shooting is wearing a t-shirt? Like, what is that mindset? I can't see anything. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I can't see anything beyond just fucking evil. I can't even jump, like you're saying with the abortion issue, where you can like kind of jump into that mindset. I cannot get there with it.
I mean, that just seems so inconsiderate, so stupid. Yeah, it's just infuriating. It's just sad, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. I'm sorry for our listeners. I mean, I feel like we're just saying everything that everyone's been in, but a good reminder to keep up keeping vocal. If you're on Twitter, like keep retweeting things, call your senators. That's the number one thing, because if you don't follow Jessica Yellin, Yellin on Instagram, I highly recommend that. She covers politics in a way that is both clarifying and also reassuring, even though we're in this like hellscape. But she was saying like the number one thing you can do is call your senators, especially if you have representatives who are bought and paid for by the gun lobby, which if your representatives are Republican, that is true. And because they, like I said at the start of this, they're getting lots of calls from the gun psychos, and the calls from people who want reform drop off after the first week. And when it drops off, that informs them that while most of their constituents want gun reform, it's not an issue that is going to move the needle in terms of them being reelected. So if enough people keep calling, it really will move the needle.
It is also, if you think of just we have, let's say in our outrage about this, if you just think about power and influence in general, it's like we look at someone, let's use Tucker Carlson, that in this household we do not, we don't rock with Tucker at all in this household.
Yeah.
But he has a big audience, he has a big platform, and he's a savvy entertainer that has found an audience that he's like, oh, these people like me, and he serves that audience, right?
Yeah.
Similar to how we saw Trump find this group of Republicans that I don't think Trump gave a shit about before.
Oh, are you kidding?
Right?
He found them probably grotesque.
Exactly. And then once he found like, oh, these people will vote for me.
Yeah.
You gravitate towards that crowd. I mean, it's as sad and simple as that. I mean, if we started getting just listeners with foot fetishes in Australia, we'd probably be posting those foot pics.
These tinkle toes would be up on the internet so fast.
But like, I mean, that's like a crazy example, but there is some truth to it, right?
Yes.
But like, I think just if you think about that in the sense of like, if you are in one of those offices or you're one of the senators and you get those phone calls for a week from us liberal yahoos, and then after that, it's like, oh shit, no, we got 20 calls a day for the last 3 years that are supporting gun stuff. It's like, I guess this is where the water's flowing in this neck of the woods. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
But it is, I think there is just that these horrible people too know they go where they're wanted. They what's the word? They take advantage of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I keep saying the last thing I'll say. This is the last thing I'll say. This I found actually oddly reassuring is that like 3% of Americans own, I should know what the actual statistic is. 3% of Americans own a very high percentage of the guns, like something like 85 to 90%. So I feel like knowing that, and then
But it's not. It's way more than 3% of Americans own guns.
Yes.
Tons of Americans own guns.
And
but
the average home that owns guns has, like, on average 17 guns or something. If you own a gun, typically.
Wait, so then what do these 3%
Oh,
own?
here it is. This thread. Okay.
100 guns?
There's this thread of people with all of their, like, crazy guns laid out. Hang on. So just 3% of American adults own a collective 133 million firearms. Oh,
so it's like about a third of the guns.
It's half. Sorry, I was totally wrong.
They think there might be as many as 400 million guns in America, I think.
These owners have collections that range from 8 to 140 guns. The average collection is 17 guns each. Okay, so my statistics were way off.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Guns.
Okay.
Freedom. Mask mandate.
What did you want to talk about?
What did I want to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought I had a win, and I'm not sure if I had a win, but I'll tell you what happened, because
Okay.
I was getting a little ahead of myself, a little cocky.
Yes.
So
I sensed that this morning.
Did I seem deflated?
No, I just saw something out on the curb.
Yeah. Okay. So we got our son a new, like, kind of beanbag chair thing that's, like, sort of cool that Elizabeth thought was going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, it's not that cool.
Anyways, and so we were going to get rid of this, what do you call it? A glider?
Yeah, it's this old, so it was a hand-me-down from my sister.
Okay.
It was the original glider she had for her boys when she had new babies. I mean, her boys who are now teenagers.
So it's like a rocking kind of
Yeah,
lazy boy?
it's a glider.
Not a lazy boy, but
it was very.
I don't think everyone knows what a glider is.
Okay, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like a rocking. It's like a armchair that.
That's it.
Kind of rock. It's not a rocker. It just glides back and forth, but it's very nice for when you have babies, and has a similar sensation as a rocking chair.
So it's an upholstered, comfy chair.
It's a nice upholstered, comfy chair. And this one, I will say, I mean, my sister has very good taste, and it's like really comfortable, very high quality. Obviously, it's now lasted like 15 years through so many rounds of babies. I had it reupholstered once. And I had it reupholstered in white fabric, thinking, I could bleach it, which did work for a while. And then it just gave up. And it was like, am I spending $500 to reupholster this chair once again? And like the stuff, it's time to retire it, which is sad because, it's been a part of our lives since I actually went into labor with Teddy. Like, my water broke when I was sitting on that chair, literally. Then I labored in it that first night with Teddy. I sat in that chair all night going through labor while you slept soundly on the floor next to me. Then, it's been meaningful, and Otis loves it.
Loves it. Our son
so
loves
we're
it.
setting up where it's time to retire it.
So
and
once
I got this
the beanbag chair
thing.
came in, just the shitty beanbag chair, you were like, get rid of that thing. And I was like, I'm going to be honest with you. I had the thought, should I put it on Craigslist for $50?
Oh my God, Andy, you were
because it
out
has
of your fucking mind.
It needs to be reupholstered, but it has great bones.
No, the bones even like it's been thrashed. It's now, if it's not like in the right corner, if you rock back too far on it, it tips over. Like, the mechanisms of it are thrashed. It is so stained and disgusting. I mean, if you saw this, like, first of all, I think that there's this perception of, like, when you see upholstered furniture out on the street in general, my mind first goes to, like, who peed on that or what's happened on that. And this is, I think sometimes I think you just don't see things.
My God.
I mean, yesterday you walked into the house and you didn't see all the decorations, these American flags we had outside on, sometimes you just don't see things. And this chair, if you look at it with like an objective view, it's so embarrassing how disgusting it is.
Oh gosh.
And so
it just needs a reupholster. And so my thought was, I was like, I was like, we'll put it out on the curb and someone will take it. And
how
like,
much do you think it would cost to reupholster that?
I don't know, $400.
$500. That's not nothing.
How much do one of those chairs cost? That's probably like a $2,000 chair, right?
I don't know. Maybe.
Come on, be real.
I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
Anyways,
Sorry.
I was like, I'll just put it out on the curb. Someone will take it. And you were like, there is no way anyone is going to take that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, let me put it on the side of the house by the trash because, and I'll do a bulky pickup. Whatever you do to get a bulky pickup in LA. So last night I was like, fuck, I forgot to do bulky pickup. I wonder if I have time to do it.
That's a service that LA provides. You keep saying it like where the trash people come and pick up a bulky item off the...
Let me just say, I think people could figure that out easier than what a glider is.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
God, you're annoying. Okay. So, anywho, I did get in my bulky ticket in time. So they're going to come pick it up the next day. So it was time for me to put it out on the curb. And I shit you not, as I'm putting it out on the curb, a pickup truck stops and was like, are you guys getting rid of that? And I was like, yes. And then it turns out they like knew one of the neighbors across the street also. Mm-hmm. But they were just driving down the street and then they stopped when they saw me with it. And they got out. And then a group of 3 people all formed, a couple of the neighbors and this person,
I will say,
checking out the chair.
Ted, the kids and I were like looking through the blinds because we were like, Dad's taking the trash out. And like, who are all these people he's talking to? There was like it was a spectacle.
Because there was an excitement in the air. There was an excitement in the air that the consensus was, oh yeah, this just needs to be cleaned up. Does have good bones. And so I thought I'd found someone that was going to take it.
Yeah.
And they went over to their pickup truck and they're like, I've got all these tires in the back. I can't fit it. And the lady is like, I will be back. I got to go get rid of these tires. And then I'm coming back for it. And I was like, okay. And I walked in the house standing tall.
Oh, man. So proud of himself.
Because I hadn't even gotten it to the curb and somebody wanted it.
But then what's happened is that apparently in the light of day, someone came and saw it and was like, oh, God.
It was sunny out when they were looking at it. They did it
seemed like dusk.
It was dusk. Okay. I'll give you that. But there was enough light to make an assessment. But they didn't, as of this morning, hadn't come back.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to point out that, like, had I pulled out the chair earlier in the week, I have no doubt someone would have taken it.
Yeah.
Can you just admit that that's a possibility now?
Well,
possibility.
No, I admitted it's a possibility, but I guess, you know what? I'm going to compromise. I'll move over, like, 15% towards more of a possibility than I was giving you before.
But that you moving over 15% isn't giving me anything because you're like, there's no way.
No, I didn't say that. I said I've from the beginning said there's a small chance. I did.
Okay, so what was the percentage in the beginning and now what's the percentage?
90% in the beginning, no one would want it or take it.
Okay.
Now it's 75%.
So there's a 25% chance that someone will take it.
Yeah.
And you can have that opinion, which is very valid for you. And I'm going to say there's a 100% chance that someone would have taken it.
Well, okay. I mean, can I just say one thing?
Please.
This is so stupid. But when is the trash coming?
Today.
If the trash comes and takes it, you're wrong.
No. Because no. What we're talking about is if we had put it out earlier in the week, so it had its
how
2
long?
or 3,
it depends on how
4
long.
days. Well, if we had put it out the day that the thing came, it would have had like 5 days for someone to find that treasure.
Okay, 100% is crazy.
I don't see. That's the thing. I don't think so. We're gonna.
But you just said there was a crowd forming. You had the interested people, and it's still there. It's just a very, very confident take, based not in reality of what happened.
But I had that take before anyone had shown interest. I knew in my heart of hearts.
100%.
Yeah, I felt really good about it.
Okay, well, whatever. Let's move on. But I just find that wild. Truly wild.
Sometimes it's so crazy how different we are, but we still get along so well, you know? I think that's really great.
There's been some tension lately in our relationship.
Oh, what other tension?
Just stuff like this. It's the dumbest stuff ever. I think it's been tough times. And you and I have been gone a lot. You and I don't do well with like being away from each other. It feels like it's not like, I think for some people it's like, oh, the person goes away and of course it is like, we're better off when we're all together.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's this weird, like you and I both get absorbed into our own, just you and me-ness separately or something. Like when you and I are away from each other, we're not the type who are like calling each other and checking in all the time. It's almost like we compartmentalize, wouldn't you say? Like you're where you are, I'm where I am, we're doing our thing. And then, I don't know, it's like a separating happens.
Yeah, it's kind of like we're fantasizing about what life could be while we're away from each other.
Maybe that's what you're doing. But when we come back together, it almost feels like you're putting on like, you know, your favorite jacket that's like wet and it's hard to get on or something. I don't know.
Whoa. So when I came back from my trip, I felt like a wet jacket?
No, but I do feel like there's like, we're a little out of sync and it takes a little while to get back into sync.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like there are people that maybe not, but I don't know. I feel like there are different types of people and we're just not the type, like, this is all to say we would never do well long distance. Like it would be a challenge for us.
Well, no, it doesn't actually seem like it would be a challenge. We just wouldn't talk very much.
Okay.
But we do talk.
Yeah.
But I guess it is. I say this?
Talking's not like pleasurable. Like when I called you to talk to you while you were in Boise, I felt like I was getting nothing. And I could tell that you were like saying, it felt very like you're saying the things, but not engaged or something. And just kind of saying, it felt like weird, like cocktail party small talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So anyway, we're getting back into it. We're getting back into our groove.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a question, and we talked about this a little bit before the podcast. I just want to like put this out to our listeners. We love doing the show so much. It is so much fun, and I will say on this subject, it served the purpose that we were setting out for it to serve, where
saving our marriage. Yeah.
Yes. We have so much fun doing it. And I feel like after every episode, we're like better off for it. And we're looking at the podcast landscape. Obviously, there are a gazillion podcasts now. Things are very different from when we started out. We have like a very solid amount of you listeners out there. It's so awesome. But we're also like, we want to grow this. We have so much fun doing this. Like we could see ourselves doing this truly forever.
Yeah.
But I think when we started our podcasts back in the day, we kind of took it all for granted. Not kind of. I mean, we also didn't know what it was. No one knew what it was. I still to this day kind of regret not having started a podcast network, although then I'm also like, no regrets. I'm happy with what I'm doing. Happier, probably. But that's that is to say, I feel like we always treated it as the side thing we did for blah, 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 instead of like treating it, I don't know, giving it its all.
Yeah.
And so we want to do that with this. And my question to our listeners is, for other podcasts that you follow and are excited about, and like, what are they offering outside of the podcast itself? Is there an Instagram page you're engaging in? Is there TikTok? Is there a video component? Is that something you'd be interested in seeing from us? Is there a Patreon? Is there merch? Are there extras? Like, I'm just curious about what else engages you for podcasts. Or is it just truly listening to it? And
yeah. Oh, that would be amazing to get some of that feedback.
Yeah. So if you want, please let me know on my Instagram on this. I'll post this episode. And I would love to hear, what is it about the other podcasts you're really engaged with that helps, I guess, have the podcast have relevance in your life. And I'm also like, I find most of my podcasts, I guess, through word of mouth.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I do too. Yeah.
So I'm curious. I mean, that's got to be part of it too. If something, I don't know. Anyway.
Basically, we're saying,
tell your friends.
Please tell your friends.
But also, truly, let me know. I'm like, should we start doing video stuff? Should we start a Patreon? Should there start being like live streams? Should there,
no joke. If you were thinking of Patreon, I think we should do OnlyFans instead, because it's really growing, not just for the erotic content, and they're like courting comedians and stuff like that. And I do think there's like a cheeky element to it, but I think that the tech behind it is like going to be the wave of the future. OnlyFans.
Do you go to OnlyFans a lot?
I've never been no, I haven't, but I've been hearing about it a lot. Seriously.
Because
it's like Patreon on steroids.
I know, but I'm like, I'd have to really look into it. I mean, I don't know if it's my like, being brought up and conservative. What's the word I'm looking for? Where I'm like,
prude?
Not prude, but
goody two shoes.
I'm just like, I feel like hearing OnlyFans leaves a very bad taste in my mouth. I cannot fathom being like, go to our OnlyFans page. It just, and I don't know what they stand for. I don't know whose company it is. I don't know, like, I have this feeling that it's really a misogynistic, kind of gross, but I could be totally wrong. Maybe it's like really empowering for female sex workers, and I don't know. I just need to do a little research.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But
we're not there yet anyways.
We're not launching our OnlyFans next week. Yeah, we're just getting started.
But yeah, let us know.
Can we talk about Cosmo?
Oh, the fucking robot?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to start a campaign to like rally some people to fucking, storm the gates of, what's the name of the company?
I don't know what the name of the company is, but is this worth talking about or not really?
No, it's something I'm passionate and heated up about, so yes.
Although I think if there are any calls to action, this is not where I want to put people's energy right now. But will you...
Call your senators. And also... Well, let's get into it first before
Jason...
Oh, are we...
Hancher.
It's not Jason. Do you want to...
Justin?
No. Careful here. Be careful for a moment. And it is not Justin either. Are we really calling this guy out?
I'm worried that we've been scammed.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right.
Tell the story.
Yes. Digital Dream Labs. Okay. There was a great educational, playful robot named Cosmo, and then there was a sequel to Cosmo named Vector, and I believe it was made by a company called like Osmo or something. That's not it, but something like that. Anki, maybe. I think it was Anki. Anyways, they're these cute little robots. They're big Christmas gifts, maybe 5 years ago. And people dug them, and our son really wanted one. Around the time that he discovered it was right around the time that this company like had folded, and I tried to get some used ones off of eBay. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And I got like 2 different ones, but they were broken. They didn't work. About a year later, this company called Digital Dream Labs.
But we did end up getting one.
We ended up getting a Vector.
Yeah, and Otis at first loved it.
But he still wanted a Cosmo, because Cosmo is more interactive with like the iPad, and you can like program it like go left, go right, stuff like that. Where Vector, you're just talking to more like an Alexa.
And can I say something?
Please.
I think Vector's kind of dumb.
Yeah, it's like
you can't do that much with it. Like he has a cube that he can lift up. They're little, like they're the size of like a Beanie Baby.
Yeah.
But I just, for the hype, I expected Vector to be able to. They're basically like 3 things Vector does, and that's it.
Yeah, it's
pretty dumb.
So our son still wanted Cosmo,
and they're like $100-something.
Oh, when the company was in business, yeah, they were like, I would say between $100 and $200.
Wow, crazy.
But then after they went out of business, harder to find, even more expensive. Anyways, long story short, this company called Digital Dream Labs announces, hey, we're resurrecting these beloved robots. And I come across this, and I'm like, oh shit, this is exciting. And our son finds out. And on Christmas Day, 2 Christmases ago, our kids had gotten some money from their grandparents. Mm-hmm. And I think they were a little disappointed because there was no Cosmo at Christmas or something like that. And we're like, hey, there's a reboot, guys. Do you want to use your money from grandparents to order a Cosmo?
Pre-order.
And the kids pooled their money to order one of these things.
I know. I feel bad for Teddy.
Yeah. And I think it must have been $200. I think it was $200.
Oh my God.
So we pre-order a Cosmo, a rebooted Cosmo. And fucking Jacob Hancher, whose name is, we're not allowed to say his name in our house anymore. And I don't even know if it's okay to say it in the studio, but our kids aren't around, so it's okay. And boy, I hope someone knows Jacob Hancher and can send him this clip. Jacob, if you're listening, this is what I want to say. We have been waiting for over 2 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
For this robot to arrive that was supposed to arrive 5 months after we pre-ordered
our order,
him.
yeah.
So we ordered him in Christmas. He was supposed to come in May, I believe. Mm-hmm. That has come and gone. And instead what we get is about an email once every 2 weeks just filled with bullshit.
Will you pull up an email? I want you to read. So this guy is either... Like, I don't understand the game, though, because part of me is like, is this such a scam where they've gotten all this money? But it feels very Theranos-y, where it's like, we're getting our machines up and running and blah, 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 blah. And like, we have all of this exciting technology coming down the pipeline. And like, we were going to send them out, but then we realized for just this little amount more, we could upgrade its chip.
Yeah, like the camera's not ready. Okay, I'm grabbing the first one I see because I forward these to you all the time. And the last one I sent to you, I forwarded it, and my message says, these fucking pieces of shit. Let's see what this one it said.
Okay. I do want to say, though, just for legal reasons, I do believe...
We're going to get sued.
I know. I do believe that in each of these emails, it has said, if you want a refund... I do believe in at least one of them. It said, if you want a refund. So it's really on us, but we're so deep in this.
And also, let me just say this. I hope we're not, is libel the word?
Yeah, yes.
But if you do come for us, you are opening a can of whoop
No,
ass.
Andy, don't. Actually, don't do that.
Okay, am I reading this? Now I'm worried that we're going to get in trouble.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Am I reading this or not reading this?
I think we're already in trouble. Like,
Okay.
I don't think you reading the email is getting us more in trouble.
Since our last email, progress on restarting production has been slowed by COVID mitigation efforts in China. While
Fair.
these strict measures have forced the factory to close temporarily, Digital Dream Lab's domestic team has continued working to resolve some of the issues found in the earlier batch of robots. So it goes on about camera calibration. It shows a picture, improving battery runtime. This is like this huge note, and we get these all the time. And it just seems like, is this a big, huge, elaborate scam?
Well, here's what it feels like to me. Mm-hmm. And again, we're just disgruntled. You know, we sent $200 and our kid is like beside himself waiting for this fucking thing. And at first we were like, it's coming in May. I mean, literally it was the countdown till May.
Yeah.
2 years ago. And so now, and at this point, we're like, I think we could ask for our money back, but we're in so deep.
I also kind of want to see how it shakes out.
And yeah, we kind of want, we're so invested.
We're holding on to, what are we holding on to? We're holding on hope is a candle or something that like we will come home someday and there will be a box on our in front of our door and the kids' eyes will light
Where
up.
Jacob Hancher himself, is it Jacob?
Yes.
Will be.
Are we going to bleep his name out?
No. Listen, he's sending us emails and, but anyway, what I will say is it feels very Theranos-y in the sense of like, I wonder if they bit off more than they can chew. And the last couple emails, wasn't there something about like, we've created a customer service?
Oh yeah. They're it's like, hey, we have this new subscription portal for existing. It's like, and it's new ways to ask for money, and it's like, no. You
well,
don't
that's
get to
what
do
it
this
feels
until you
like. Their
deliver your
focus
product.
now, their focus now is on asking for money, and I can imagine that having a business for over 2 years, where there's been no income, is taxing. So
you know what? Yeah, let's take a moment to be empathetic to them.
Well, no, but I'm saying to me, it's like Theranos, where it was like big promises out the gate, biting off more than they could chew. And then the realities of everything setting in and trying to buy time. Time is expensive. And so like, I do not have high hopes for us ever having a robot delivered.
And to be clear also, there's been multiple like new targets for delivery that have come and gone.
Yeah. So anyway, listen, and also we're aware there are like much bigger issues in the world. I don't know. This gets Andy riled up in a way that kind of excites me, because now, like, you know, we used to like read each of these emails at dinner with the kids, and all of us would be like, oh man, and so anyway, it's become a part of our lives that is in part just amusing, but also like,
yeah, if you want more of this content or less, let us know.
Did this scratch that itch? Okay. I think we're good here. We've ranted about gun.
It's just like, you know, it's like
ranted about robots.
You promise something to your kids. You want to see your kids happy. And then it's like for this company to be taking all these people's money and they keep getting let
Andy.
down.
Hey,
you know?
Andy.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I'm like wrapping it up and I'm like ranting about guns, ranting about robots. Like, we have much bigger things to be concerned about with our kids and their happiness and safety, just so you know.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be taken out of context. Mm-hmm. But yeah. Here's a question for you. And this might feel attacking. I promise it's not. It's just curious.
Yeah.
And we can edit this out if you don't want this on the podcast. But like that outrage, which I know in part is like playful outrage.
Oh, yeah.
And you were very outraged by this horrific shooting.
Yeah.
But like you have said to me before, like political activism just isn't your thing.
Sure.
And I tend to feel like like many things, this is not the case in our relationship. Like, we are 50-50 of doing the mental workload and taking care of the house and kids. It's not a gendered situation in our lives, thank God. But in general, I think women bear the burden of like the mental workload of being the house coordinator, the kids coordinator, even if they're also working.
Okay.
And political activism has felt very much like a women's world.
Yeah.
I'm not painting that with a wide brush. Of course, there are men out there too.
Yeah.
But I will say, by and large, it feels like I have all of these groups of female activists that I'm a part of, and like it's a lot of moms.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it for you? Where do you stand on this? And I know you've had like a couple of frustrating conversations with people over the last week where I'm happy to see that you're kind of like standing up for what you believe in this realm. And there's no right or wrong way, but like, have you ever called a senator?
Yes, I have, but only like after you've given me like the explicit instructions on how to do it.
That's good.
But, and again, like, and in this case too, like you saying that phone number, if you were like, hey, you should call that number, go for it. When it comes to, you probably have never really seen me ever be vocal online about stuff, which I mean, number one, I'm not vocal online about really anything.
But like, for example, you did a Twitch show that night.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, did it come up at all?
No.
Which I'm like, I can't even, which, you know, I know it's compartmentalizing and stuff. But anyway, sorry, I'm not trying to, I'm just curious about what it is. What's the difference?
Well, I think I'm very comfortable in my real life, and I've had conversations about this stuff with people in my life that are not on the same page with me. Mm-hmm. So I'm very comfortable having those conversations. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe it's a cop-out, but online I don't know. I don't feel comfortable in the conversation online. And I also don't, I definitely absorbed a lot of it online, probably more than I wanted to, and spent time on Twitter and whatnot. But it, I don't know, maybe it's just because it bums me out so much. And also I feel like, I don't even know how to articulate it. I mean, maybe it's a bit of a cop-out. I've just never felt uncomfortable having that voice in my online presence.
You've never felt comfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. And I don't think that like, I actually think there is power in social media for this. Like for, you know, I was saying you can share data now, and like all of the gun lobbies points now can be, there's been enough time that we can prove all of them wrong.
Yeah.
And, but I do feel like it's important, you know, to take a look at our place of privilege. That's why, like, for Black Lives Matter things, I force myself out of my comfort zone because I think it doesn't really affect me. Obviously, it affects all of us. But what I'm trying to say is I feel like a cis straight white male in this world can go through life feeling like, you know, not even realizing the privilege you have and like things seemingly not affecting you.
Yeah.
But in this case, I mean, like abortion rights being taken away, it kind of doesn't affect either of us at this point because, I mean, heaven forbid, unless I was raped or something, like you've had a vasectomy, I've closed up shop there, like, but so there are a lot of issues that don't affect us, but this one really does.
Yeah.
you know, and so that's why this specific issue, I'm curious about it.
But I've had multiple conversations in my life about this particular issue with
Yeah.
people. But I think that's where and it's not like I have some platform on my social media by any means either.
Right.
God.
I mean, and who's to say, honestly, like, we live in a blue state where most of our leaders already, like, are in line with us.
Yeah.
They're like, I know that if it were important to me enough that you were there with me at like a protest or something, you would come.
Oh,
and you
yeah, for
have
sure.
in the
Yeah.
past.
For sure.
So it's not to, I mean, it could be that these one-on-one conversations are far more important and impactful than like ranting into the void or whatever. So I'm not even, like trying to say that there's a right way or a wrong way.
Well, I also think I'm just trying to provide a little context, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but I think there is, when I say it feels inauthentic to me,
mm-hmm.
there's something about like me reposting some sort of clip on my social media. Not that I wouldn't believe in what those things, but it almost feels like,
it's, what's that called when you're like, not showboating, but there's a word for that. I think what you're trying to, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like.
Oh, wait, I think I know what you're talking about.
Anyway.
Virtue signaling?
Yes. That's it. That was satisfying.
Yeah. There is something about it that doesn't, when I say inauthentic, I don't want it to sound like I don't believe any of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But it just doesn't feel like, it just seems like almost posting it to be posting it where, I don't know, it just doesn't feel authentic. Where to you, I know you're already on Twitter you're commenting on other people's threads, you're talking to people about it, you're doing all this stuff. So it is very relevant and authentic to you. But I'm never like joining that conversation on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, that's not for me. And yeah, does that make any sense? Sort of? And maybe that's a total cop-out, and I'm totally cool to admit to that.
Well, I think just one thing to look at is, like, and everyone has their level and degree. I mean, it's very easy for me to say, like, why aren't you doing more? When someone could look at me and say, like, you're not doing much. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, it's all perspective, but I think it's more just like, to me, there's this feeling of women, like, and it's also very ironic because I know that white women elected Trump, and like white women are causing massive problems in this country. You know what? I'm just going to stop talking about it. But anyway, I will say, like, Paul Scheer, who's very vocal, our dear friend, like, posts things that are actually useful and helpful. And the phone number and that list of action items is directly from his post.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, that's a great thing to do instead of just posting like rage, which is my tendency.
Yeah.
And like pointing fingers, which is my tendency, which at this point I have to remind myself is so pointless. Like, whoever has their heels dug in on the other side on this issue after what happened this week, there's going to be no swaying. And we can at least take comfort in knowing it's not like there are 51% of Americans who feel that way. There is a very small percentage of Americans who feel that way, like 15%. And the rest of us are rational and want the same thing. So at least we have that. But anyway, sorry. I started this and ended it on an annoying note. Hopefully next week we can come back having been together the whole time, in sync, in simpatico, ready to take on a new day.
Yeah.
Okay. Yay.
All right.
Do you feel attacked?
A little bit, but I'm totally fine with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Good night.
Good night.